What's up, YouTube? I'm Lenny. Welcome to my channel. So it's a few days after Valentine's, and some of you enjoyed that special day and some of you didn't, and some of you couldn't care less. You're like, Val and who, right? Now, whatever your experience was on that day, just know that love should be given and celebrated every single day of the year and not just on one day. Like, you shouldn't have to wait for one day to be loved or to give love or to show appreciation. And if you have to wait for one day to receive some love, then who are you hanging around? Like, something is wrong with that. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about 3 must-have ingredients to a healthy and happy relationship. So if you are in a relationship or if you're thinking about getting into one, then this video might be for you. So stay tuned. Now, a relationship is the way in which 2 or more people or things are connected with or involve each other. So in other words, a relationship is a connection or a link, an association, or a relation with another person or a thing. Now, in this video, we're going to be looking at the relationship between a husband and a wife, so spouse to spouse, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or friend to friend, for all you best friends or good friends out there. Now, some relationships thrive and prosper, while others are miserable or flat out fall apart. They just don't work. So what's the difference between these 2 sets of relationships? What sets one apart from the other? What makes one succeed and the other fail? Like, what's the secret ingredient to the ones that succeed? Now, there are so many things that can determine how far a relationship goes, right? But with love as the covering, there are 3 key ingredients that every successful relationship has, and I'm going to tell you about them. Now, communication is the first of the 3 ingredients, and it is very important. Now, I can't stress enough how important communication is. Communication means connecting with your spouse or your significant other, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or your friend. It is the imparting or exchanging of information, ideas, or feelings. It is the way in which you interact with each other to find out the events of a day gone by, or to find out how the other is doing, to talk about future plans, to make some present plans, and to reminisce or laugh about past events, and to convey some understanding, some emotion, and to give support where necessary. Now, in a nutshell, communication means staying connected to that other person. Now, if you are in a relationship where it seems like you're the only one communicating, you're the only one pushing to have some sort of connection going, then I want you to stop and have a chat with the person that you're in the relationship with. I want you to have a chat with them and find out what's going on. Because the truth of the matter is that some people are not big on communication, but if they value the relationship that they have with you, if they love you, then they're going to make an effort to try to do better, or to try to reach out more, or to try to communicate with you more. Also, you have to take into account that some people are going through some life issues, and as a result of that, they don't feel like communicating because they're in this little shell as a result of what they're going through. Take that into consideration as well and accept that. But if after you would have reached out to somebody and asked them to communicate with you more, or you would have let them know how you felt about them not communicating with you, and they just sit there, like they just don't even bat an eyelash, they don't flinch, they don't move a muscle, they look at you like, then honey, you need to run. And run, don't walk, because that person is not interested in staying connected with you. The truth of the matter is, people make time for what and who they're interested in. If someone likes you and they like your company and they like staying connected with you, they're going to make every effort to ensure that they keep that link with you. When someone is not so much interested in you, then they're not going to care about whether or not you're close to them or whether or not you stay connected with them, right? So you have to look for these subtle hints. Look for these little red flags flying in your relationship, because some of you see those flags before you even go deeper with the person, and you just brush it off. You brush it off like, well, the person is going to change in the long run. The person is not going to change. If you see that red flag where that person is not communicating, bet your bottom dollar that that person is not going to be communicating any more than they're communicating with you now in the future. All right. Now, having no communication in a relationship is like having a broken electrical circuit. With that circuit broken, the light is not going to come on. It's like having a chain where the link is broken, because if the link in the chain is broken, then that chain can't be used. It's no good. No communication in a relationship is unhealthy, because when you have communication with that person, you grow. Your relationship can be taken to another level because you now know each other's plans, each other's thoughts, each other's feelings. You now understand the other person. You have a better scope of who that person is. So now you both can grow. You can see if you both are on the same wavelength. So, that will tell you if you should take this further or if you should draw back, right? But when you have no sort of communication, the relationship is going to stay stagnant. It's not going to move. And for those of you who are in serious relationships where you've been together for years and communication is just at a minimal, it's time for you to stop and reevaluate that connection that you have with that person. It's time for you to stop and look at it and say, is this making sense? Am I going anywhere with this? Is this healthy for me? Right? Stop and evaluate it. Stop wishing for that person to change and become something that they're not. Because when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Because that is what they're going to give you in the future. Now, there are some of you who are in relationships where you tend to sweep things under the rug, or you sweep things under the carpet. And by that, I mean that there are issues in your relationship that should be resolved, but instead of resolving them, instead of bringing them out into the open and talking about them, you sweep them underneath the carpet. So you know what's going to happen there. When you do things like that, you're just building up a set of unresolved issues that's going to erupt sometime in the future like a volcano. It's not wise to sweep issues under the carpet. When you have something going wrong in your relationship or something that you don't like, bring it out on the table and talk to your significant other. Say to that person, that thing you did right there, I don't really like it. Or that thing you said right there, I don't really like it. When you have open conversations with your significant other or your spouse or your friend, then you set a nice tone for the relationship because everything is out in the open. When you talk about things, you have a lighter feeling to yourself. You feel lighter, you feel better. You and the other person tend to go down a lot better than if you would keep things muffled and stifled. And when you have such a huge amount of unresolved issues and they blow up sometime in the future, the relationship then has a strain on it. And the end result of that is that most of the time that relationship gets broken. Because sometimes you can see couples together for years and then they just suddenly break up and you're wondering, well, how did that happen? Those two always seem so happy, or they were always together, or I didn't sense anything wrong. The thing that was wrong in the relationship is the set of unresolved issues that they left to mount like a mountain. These things need to be dealt with. And also, don't go and put your business on social media when you have an issue with your spouse. Some of you have this thing about going on Facebook and throwing talk for your significant other. So now all of your friends in your friend circle on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is that you use now know that you have some sort of issue in your relationship. Or if you don't do that, you're going next door by Susie Q or by Harry up the street and talking about your spouse. You're like, you know what he say about me? You hear what she say about me? And she said this and she said that and she said the other and she said the third, right? What you're really doing is just to air your dirty laundry in public when you could have resolved that issue with that very person, right? So instead of taking your business to the streets and instead of telling every other person about the problem, instead of that person, go directly to your spouse or your significant other or your friend and have a chat with them. Say, hey, we need to talk about this thing that you did there. I really didn't like it. Because the thing about airing out your dirty laundry on social media and to your next door neighbor is that some of these people that you air it out to are exclusive macro people. They don't even have your best interest at heart. They're just interested in hearing about what's going on with you and laughing at you behind your back. So you need to get your stuff together and realize and understand who you have the relationship with and who you should be resolving your issues with and who you should be dealing with these issues with, right? Now, the second key ingredient is a 5-letter word, and it is vital to every relationship. Now, if you guess the word trust, then you're correct. The second key ingredient is trust. Now, when you communicate or you stay connected to your spouse or your significant other or your friend, you develop a trust in that person. Now, trust here means having confidence or belief or reliability in that person. Now, just like respect, trust is something that is earned. Now, I'm going to tell you something and I want you to listen real good. If you do not trust someone, you're not going to have a healthy relationship with that person. Now, when you trust that person, you're not worrying about what they're doing, where they're doing what they're doing, or when they're doing what they're doing. If you don't trust somebody, then you're always checking their phones. You've now become a stalker because you're following them to make sure that they're going where they said they are going, or you're calling up all the friends of that person to see if they're with that person or they're where they said they would be at. You're even going as far as to start tracking the person's phone or car. If you're doing all of that jazz, you're crazy. You're crazy. This is going to drive you insane. Now, instead of investing all of that time in keeping tabs on somebody else, how about investing that time in getting yourself together by developing some self-confidence and self-esteem and self-worth and self-appreciation, or finding yourself in a relationship where you are more valued or appreciated, in a relationship where you and your partner trust each other and you're faithful to each other so that you won't have to go insane by becoming a stalker or becoming a private investigator. Because when you do those things that I mentioned before, it's as if you've become the Sherlock Holmes or Perry Mason of your relationship. Now, that's gonna drive you crazy. And if you don't trust someone, if you're a boyfriend or girlfriend and you don't trust your boyfriend or girlfriend, then don't go into marriage with that person, because your trust issues with that person is just going to amplify. It's not going to get any better. So if right now you're seeing signs, or as I like to say, the red flags, if you see those red flags nicely waving in the wind with trust issues with that person, then it's time to fall back. It's time to back away, because that person is going to be the exact same that they are right now in that relationship. If they're unfaithful to you now and you keep having to run around and check up on them to make sure that everything is the way they said it is, they're going to be the exact same way if they get married to you. So do not go into a relationship with a person that you don't trust. The final must-have ingredient for every relationship is commitment. Now, when you are committed to someone, you are dedicated or devoted to that person. You are faithful to that person. Your obligations and duties are to that person because you honor them. People who are in committed relationships love and respect each other. They are loyal and honest with each other. They spend significant time with each other, and they are there with each other in times of need, and they support and trust each other. Now, I want you to take a minute and just investigate your own relationship. I want you to investigate and see if the 3 key ingredients that I mentioned in this video are present in your relationship, or are they lacking in your relationship? If they're lacking in your relationship, I want you to have a talk with your significant other. Have a talk with that person and find out where you're at in that relationship. Because if you don't know where you're at in your relationship, it will sort of be like if you're spinning topping mud, wasting time. So you have to find out where you're at. Ask yourself some questions as well. Reflect on that relationship. Has that relationship been beneficial to you? Has it been beneficial to the both of you? Has that relationship progressed within the last few months, within the last few years? Does your relationship look like if it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon? Ask yourself some questions and ask your significant other some questions. See where you're at. And don't forget that the 3 key ingredients that I mentioned in this video are linked. They're intertwined with each other. They're interconnected, because communication leads to trust and trust leads to commitment. All right? So they are all linked. There are 3 must-haves for every single relationship. So you have to now make sure that your relationship has these 3 elements in it and that you're keeping them at a maximum level. So in summing up, I want to leave you with a few pointers. Remember to continue to communicate with your spouse or your partner or your friend or your significant other, boyfriend or girlfriend. Because if you don't communicate, you'll eventually turn into strangers, because you won't know what's going on with the other person, or you won't know the other person's thoughts or feelings. And if that person is not making any effort to communicate with you, then move on. If after you've spoken to them, they're still not making that effort, move on. It's not the end of the world. And remember, if you're in a relationship and you don't trust that person, then chances are you're gonna go insane. Because when you don't trust somebody, then you start doing all sorts of crazy things because you're trying to earn or to get that person's trust. You're trying to find elements that will make you trust that person. And when somebody is committed to you, you're definitely going to know based on the things that I mentioned before. And for those of you who are still boyfriend and girlfriends in your relationship, take your time and make sure and find out who that person is. And don't push the relationship. And ladies, those of you who are waiting to be married, don't force a guy into marriage. If a guy wants to marry you, trust and believe he's going to drop hints to let you know that he wants to marry you. He's going to drop all those hints. He's going to tell you that he wants to marry you, and then he's going to propose. So don't force a guy to marry you, ladies. Don't get anxious. Don't feel like if your time is running out, because some of you out there are feeling that way. Take your time and let the guy have his time, because if you force a guy to marry you, in the long run, when things are not going his way or your way, then you're both going to be at each other's throats, and then he's going to blame you because he's going to look back and say, well, I don't want to marry you in the first place, right? So don't force a guy to marry you. If he wants to marry you, trust me when I tell you, you're definitely going to know, because he's going to drop all of those hints, and then he will eventually propose and get married to you. So I think this is where I'm going to end my video for this week. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you in my next video. But until then, don't forget to be you, stay true, and let your authentic self shine. Bye. So what exactly is body image? Body image is the way that you see yourself and the way that you imagine how you look. In some instances, it's the way that you think you look versus how you really look. Because sometimes you could step out of your house thinking that you look as fine as wine. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I look so good.